Our next keynote speaker is from Malaysia, Dr. Rupam Konar. Thank you very much for being with us today. Dr. Rupam Konar is senior lecturer at the Taylor University in Malaysia at the School of Hospitality, Tourism and Events. He's also serving as an associate director for the Asia Pacific Journal of Innovation in Tourism and Hospitality at the Center of Research in Tourism. And I hope we can publish some of the articles we present here in this conference in your journal. His specializations areas include service innovation, service delivery, and service design within the hospitality industry. Within his interest research, he has published over 25 international referred journals and has successfully complemented many national and privately funded research projects. Dr. Rupam has also been awarded the gold medal at the e-learning Carnival 2019 and is also certified Microsoft Innovative Educator. Currently, he is also the managing direct editor of the Asia Pacific Journal of Innovation and Hospitality in Tourism. With this gained years of industry experience in the hospitality sector and working at different levels and in academia, he is now really intrigued by the possibilities of an innovation change he can contribute to this industry. Rupam, it's a pleasure to have you here. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Prof. Markus. Definitely, it's a great pleasure. Happy to see so many faces here, so many participants from different parts of the world. Right, so today I will be speaking about digital trust in the food supply chain, mainly in the hospitality industry, mainly focusing on the concept and ideas, what is really happening in the industry, what sort of digital innovation really happening within the hospitality areas related to food supply chain, and further focusing on what changes it has brought when the pandemic hit the world, right? So moving forward, I just want to talk about this particular quote, which I really like from Chris, the global head of supply chain of Nestle, that people wants to know rightfully the ingredients they feed themselves, where they have come from. So it is quite important for us as well when we are maybe working in the hotels, or we are going to the hotels, or any food businesses going to consume something. We need to know where the ingredients they are sourcing from, that they are feeding you. So it's quite important for all of us to understand that it happens through a certain process, and that certain process is focuses based on how the ingredients are being sourced, where they source from, what are the process they come between, and then how it's reaching to the plates of the consumer. So further, it's very important that why the supply chains are going digital, right? We have seen a lot of inputs from the global supply chain brands, mainly focusing on these four aspects. Understanding why they are going digital is to understand their value, or to drive their own value, to improve visibility, more visibility towards different brands, no matter which food industry or hospitality industry, mainly into their operations. So how they can utilize their warehouses, their own system, their own data to be more visible towards what's really happening behind the scene, which was previously manually managed. When it's been digitally managed, it is much more in control. So the next part is the superior resource management. As you know that when you go digital, you can see what's really happening real time, what sort of task, what sort of any sort of inspection, any sort of audits you are making in your operational activities. You can see real time what's really happening. So the other part is the efficient use of agri inputs, right? So as we need to know as a consumer what's really we are getting as consumer when we are having our meal, when we are having our lunch, dinner, and so on in any restaurants or any hospitality businesses. we need to know what's really, how it's been manufactured, where it's come from, where it's been sourced from. Is it organic? Is it, how much of fertilizer has been used, and so on. So the going digital, or you can say the digital supply chain, can able to, get back all those kind of information which are quite needed. Number 4 is the mitigated risk. So when you have a total control of your process, you can easily identify where is the mistake been happening. So sometimes there are issues with, food recalls or frauds, or, some materials which are being not supposed to be added, or additives, which are very common these days, that maybe you're buying rice, but you're not actually getting the rice. Maybe it's something else being added to it. How much is, modified or genetically modified to your food, and so on. So this kind of risk, they can easily control that which particular part of the world these particular foods or the supplies are going. They can have an overall control. So moving forward, I just recently read this interesting article published by Brewers and their fellow colleagues in 2021. They mentioned, in a double quoted, that the full potential of digitally transformed food system can only be realized if permission and trusted data can flow seamlessly from farm to the consumer. So if the consumer can have access what's really happening, with their food, how they are getting this food on their plate, if the information is seamless, it is much in their control. So they can trust it, that there is no middle barriers or anything. So there are 4 major aspects or outcome, you can say, that can be realized later on, which is data is always good for public, right? So if the publics are becoming healthy, or the citizens are becoming healthy, it is much good. Data can also bring trust, and data can also create framework, a trustable framework for the industry, for the public, for the citizens, as well as the future consumers. The number 3 is focusing on the, the transformation of the food chain. They are becoming more intelligent. They are transformed into more digitalized way. So you can track back what's really happening to your suppliers, where they are sourcing the food. Whenever we, let's say, for example, whenever, I used to work in hotels. So when I used to see where this salmon is coming from, oh, it's coming from Norway, but how it's been processed, how it's been transformed, how many days it took to reach to my hotel, I can easily see those information on the packaging itself. So it is much more trustworthy for me to utilize those kind of raw ingredients in the food products that I am producing in the hotel. Lastly is the security and operational efficiency. When you have a digitalized food system, your security is much more enhanced. Your operational procedure or operational efficiency is much more enhanced over the period of time. So it is about the industry 4.0, the supply chain itself. So as we know, the process begins from the farmer to warehouse to processing center, service provider, and until the logistic. Since the industry 4.0 supply chain has been introduced, you can easily have monitoring in real time. You can have much more organized inventory. The supply chain can make decision, okay, more in real time, usage of IoT, AI, machine learning, as well as blockchain in order to provide or get information or make decision. Also usage of robots in the automation sector, and also it helps you to reduce the labor. So it is much more controlled for the suppliers, that what they are actually getting from the farmers directly, and until they give it to the logistic, what's happening in the middle, it is much more in their control. So what really happened due to the pandemic, right? So we are in a verge of creating new services, or we can say transform services, since the pandemic hit the world. So in terms of when the pandemic hit the world, it driving the change of hospitality consumer behavior. It's not only hospitality, but every sectors we are seeing these kind of changes. So no matter you are booking your hotels, no matter you're booking your restaurants, or even you're going to the restaurants, the consumer has reduced or redirected their stationaries, paintings into different aspects. It is just not really, now we are becoming more aware of, okay, how we can get a safe and secure or hygiene food to my family, or like your family, or your well wishers and so on. So you are trusting more on those kind of brands which always representing themselves as they can be trustworthy, they can be trusted over the period of time. Digital embracement has been, all the consumers has accelerated since you can say 2019. Since the pandemic had hit the world, it has radically grown up. It actually was transforming, but since the pandemic had hit, or the COVID-19 has hit, it has accelerated in a much greater pace than it used to be done before. Consumers are becoming very slow to go back to the old habits or the crowds itself, but they are more accustomed with the digital. So you're seeing the example, like if there is a conference is happening, I can be still in Malaysia, but I can still attend the conference. I can speak for the conference from the convenience of the home. So it is happening for the guest as well. When they are ordering food, you can use different apps. These days are very common. You can order by sitting at home. You don't have to go to your favorite restaurant. You just can order from home. So those kind of facilities and procedures has actually created opportunities for customers, but also it has changed how we share information. How we can trust different brands over these kind of services that they are providing. So securing the trust in the global pandemic, or you can say COVID-19 supply chain has becoming very vital, even for the hospitality industry as well. Moving forward there are a few key points that have been coming over and over, that trust will be essential. It is very important that when we are visiting hotels, we are visiting any hospitality business, there are four major aspects of trust that always comes to our mind. First of all is the physical, right? When we go to a hotel, when we go to a restaurant, we first see what kind of ambience or servicescape that the physical aspect of that particular business is providing to us. Is it safe? Is it hygienic for us to dine in? Is it well trusted by the other consumer or not? The second part is emotional, how the companies are actually serving to your emotional needs at the point of time. Maybe you're frustrated, maybe you're happy with the service being given to you, how they are giving you the extra support over the period of time. The next part is digital interest of trusting that your information is basically secure. I don't know whether you people know or not. In 2018 and 2020, there was twice a data leak from Marriott International Group of Hotels, where around 13.5 millions of their consumers been affected, and they had paid over 12.5 million pound in recreate the trust again. So those kind of informations are becoming very, very important, or those kind of concern are becoming very, very important, that should the customer trust to your brand, what kind of trust evidence and what kind of brand promise you can provide to your customers that they can keep trusting you, that you shouldn't leak your data, you shouldn't leak the customer data, you shouldn't do something else that could actually harm the reputation of the customer. Lastly is the financial aspect, where it's basically focusing on building the trust and how you are, trusting your financial concern to be served over the period of time. So how government is helping you, how your, destination management organizations are helping you to support your business from their local point of view. The next part is the long-term value. It is also important that a trust cannot be gained over a short period of time, but it has to be maintained over the long period of time. So if some suppliers are just looking for short-term value orientation, it's not going to happen. A digital trust, or you can say a value-oriented services, always go for long-term. So values exposed to the COVID-19 has suffered a lot. Many businesses has closed down, but still Technologies are making this entire supply chain much more efficient, making it much more, less labor oriented, or also mitigating the risk concerning to the security, the safety of the customer, the hygiene aspect of the customer in terms of transportations and much more. Followed by the most important part is how we reimagine the customer experience for a post-pandemic world, right? It has to be something the customer can have a trust with your organization. The brand you are serving or the brand you are, portraying to your customer has to be trusted by your customer. So make the physical environment as clean or as you can say stress-free as possible, so that the customer can dine in with the peace of mind that this particular brand I can trust, or this particular brand I can go in and dine in at any point of time. Also their suppliers, that is very important. So whenever they are getting any food, those food can be much more trusted compared to just dining it elsewhere. Engaging customer more actively in terms of what sort of information you need from them, what sort of personalized experience you're creating for them. Okay, all those kind of aspects need to be taken in consideration. Moving the customer touch points online and expanding this experience could also enhance the overall customer satisfaction, building the trust between the customer and the supplier, and also loyalty for the customer so that they can come back to you over a period of time. Now, the big pivot is here, finding new ways to do the business. It is very important that while understanding there is a huge shift of the customer behaviors has been changed over the period of time, how the supply aspect of the hospitality can bring new ways to do the business, can serve the customer in a more personalized way. And that is becoming much more important in, with the coming years as well. The most focus or the most important aspect that's been considered is the operational agility. Operational agility maybe seems like a very simple term, but as we know, all the hospitality organization, not only hospitality, but any organization, always trying to hire people who are multi-skilled. And that is quite important. If you're hiring people multi-skilled, you know that that person can help you in any sort of need of work or any sort of department, they can able to do the work. So embracing on the agile workforce as well as the supply chain, it is becoming very important. Now, uses of technology has becoming very efficient. Common these days, but also it also alleviates your operational burden. You have to do less work, but you are relying on a proper system to promote safety for your customer, to promote safety for your, the companies you're supplying your food materials and so on. The next part is the digital trust is hard to earn, right? We all know, but very easy to lose. I just give an example of the Marriott International Hotel, that how they lost the information about so much of customers where they have to pay the fees in order to gain it back, but it doesn't really come back so easily, right? So customer wants more personalized touches that make their experience more immersive and rewarding. But for that, in order to create that, you need much more data, right? As a supplier to your customers, you need more data from the customer, what they really like. For example, you are checking in a hotel, they need to know what kind of room you like, whether you like a smoking room or non-smoking room, whether you like with a view or don't like a view, what sort of preference you have. They need to know your personalized choices. So those kind of data are becoming very, very important for the service providers. So according to the report, 50% of the consumer believe that the brands are hiding bad things that they have done with their user data, whether you have sold your data, where you have utilized your data. I mean, their user data, they don't know because they are not, transparent from the service provider to their own consumer. Now, 78% of the consumer also believe that they have, if they want to see what kind of data been captured by the brand, They also need to see what sort of change they can bring, what sort of update they can do, or either they can delete whatever information they desire. So it is becoming more, the consumer are becoming more privacy concerned, especially in the hotel industry, in order to understand that what sort of information been given to the service provider and how much they can able to control over it. Hospitality organization also relies on the personal customer data, right? In order to make some decision about their, fully immersive customer experience or automating their, their routine and services request and so on. Because those kind of information without customer personalized data, you cannot create personalized experience, because those are the quintessential important information from the customer to your service provider. Same goes for the supply chain as well. The integrity of the security of the customer data need not to be a good policy, but it had to have an integral in the brand promise. So it is not about just providing the best customer experience, but it also that you keep respect of the customer integrity of their information, how you handle their information, and how you respect their privacy choices. The next part is how you can foster the trust with your guest. Trust in hotel, it's becoming very important, because hotel must shape the experience of the customer, because having a trust with a particular hotel, it means you are offering something more flexible, more greater visibility and proactive communication with your guest. You are being very transparent what you are getting from the customer, what you are taking from the customer, or what you are giving back to your customer. So that is becoming more achievable by using digital centric tools. The next part is making the purpose a priority. So what the customer is really needed, you need to serve those kind of services, but also the trust, transparency, and treating the customer well. That is becoming the core aspect of any businesses these days, mainly in the hospitality industry. So the personalization in real time, rather than just depending upon their data, it should be more customer oriented, understanding your customer, what they really need at the present point of time or that particular point of time, providing them with the services are becoming very important. The next part is, this is a source from Deloitte analysis, and I believe this is one of the very important aspect of the trust, the 4 pillars of our trust. First of all is the ethics and responsibility, how organization have full ethics and their responsibility towards the collected data of the customer, what they are doing with their data, what they are actually using the data for, how they are responsible for maintaining that privacy of the data, and so on. So in order to have an overall control, you need to have privacy and control over the customer preference. It's not that you can collect the information. We have been victimized for of this kind of small aspect a lot. Like for example, we input some our email ID, we get to see some random emails coming from nowhere else. We never sign up for. So are you selling my data? Where you are utilizing my data? It has to be very transparent with your consumer, how they are being transparent with your own people, so that they have a trust over the period of time. How transparent you are and accessible in order to build this kind of trust, that is also becoming very important, because being transparent with your customer creates the loyalty of the customer towards your brand. Lastly is the security and reliability, which is also becoming a big aspect from the customer point of view, with heightened awareness of the cyber risk. As I just given the examples of Marriott International, there are many hotels, there are many brands who are actually cannot able to control what sort of data leak might happen. So it is very important that you should increase the cyber security of your system, so that your data or your customer data is protected within your brand itself. It's not going elsewhere. So lastly, what sort of future direction I can come to the point, which is basically what sort of disruptive supply chain technologies are becoming prominent. Additive manufacturing, then augmented reality, advanced robotics, artificial intelligence. These are becoming very common these days, how the supply chain technologies are being maintained. Now, the demand for new capabilities can be technical, can be analytical, can be collaborative, where you can collaborate with different companies with their spearheading in other different aspects. But at the end of the day, you can create better opportunities for your local people, for your own farmers, your country people, and so on. The lastly is the new talent model, which is basically acquisition, retention, and development. So when it's very important that when you're having these talented people coming in or new talents coming in, you should acquire them, you should retain them, and should develop them for the further improvement. So with that, I would like to thank you very much for listening to me for my presentation. You can contact me if you have any further queries and questions. My email ID, you can contact me on Facebook, LinkedIn, or even Telius Expert. So thank you very much, everybody, for listening to me. Over to you, Prof. Markus.
Thank you so much. Excellent presentation. We're working together in a team here to further research. Kandapan is actually listening from another conference. He will come as soon as he is available.